What's up, YouTube? I had seen that this game, Night in the Woods, was supposed to be interesting. It's yet another indie Netflix style game about a girl who happens to be a cat going back to her hometown, reconnecting with old friends, and getting caught up in a murder mystery. Yay. So let's get into it. I was initially debating how to do this game. The game is an absolute chore to play. I did not enjoy my time with it. The trophies are a slog of busy work and annoyance. The story is a mess and is generally uninteresting. The pacing is terrible. There are very few likable characters, and the main character is just insufferable. If I just focused on the trophies, then why the game sucks wouldn't come through in this video. So instead, I'm going to go over the main beats from the guide and spoil the whole story. The TLDR is that this game sucks and you shouldn't play it. If you want to stick around and really find out why, then please, by all means, let's get into it. First off, this game is overflowing with missables, so using a guide is highly recommended. The gameplay is very simple. You can walk left and right and jump. So the game is mostly a walking simulator with some minor platforming. And for some reason, all of the people are animals. Probably because with the art style, they're easier to draw or something. So the game starts off with a ton of questions, like why did our main character, May, suddenly return home from college? What's up with the town? What's up with May's past and the awful thing that she did? And most importantly, why does May suck so much as a character? And besides choosing who to hang out with on certain days, your choices aren't worth a damn. So we spawn in at the bus station, with our parents nowhere in sight. And the whole town doesn't have cell phone service, and hasn't for years, so everyone relies on Wi-Fi and landlines. Damn, talk about the Dark Ages. We get introduced to the funny mechanic where May can interact with some objects, slowing the snail's pace down even more, as we will have to manually pick up or interact with certain objects. It's a neat idea, but it really hurts the pacing, which is already agonizingly slow. So we gotta walk through the woods to get home, and nearly die in the process due to feline feminine stupidity. And for some reason, May seems ecstatic about this brush with death. We then get a brief jumping tutorial, where a triple jump with momentum like from the Mario side-scrollers will give May some extra height. We also see that May loves to walk on the power lines, and this will be key to moving about town and finding secrets. And of course, we get picked up by a bitchin' Blue who happens to be May's aunt, Mall Cop. We chew out the old man for not picking us up and head off to bed in a huff. We wake up the next day, and first things first, we gotta play the song we have unlocked on our base. We need to make sure we get a pretty good rating on every song. During the sessions in our room, we have 2 chances each day to play a song. You'll know you did good when a character says pretty good, and you'll get a sketch added to your notebook. We can then head downstairs and talk to Mom. Make sure to do this every morning before leaving the house. Time to pay a visit to an old friend. On our way, we talk to the ex-drug addict bear, Selmers, before making our way into town proper, seeing that the town is in shambles despite things chugging along semi-properly. We say hi to Lori, a cute little goth mouse, who for some reason May feels connected to. Making our way to the Snack Falcon, we can finally meet the best character and nearly only good character in this entire game, Greg. Greg the Fox is wild, crazy, animated, and just a good guy all around. After a brief catch-up, he bails from work and insists on getting together for band practice with ex-bestie B the Crocodile and Greg's boyfriend Angus the Bear. Band practice can be annoying as we only have 1 shot per practice to get a pretty good rating for the song. If you mess up, you gotta close the whole game and start it again. After practice, the gang splits a pizza, and then leaving the diner, we see a dismembered arm, which May insists on poking with a stick. Make sure to brutally murder the cockroach for a trophy. And also reveal the diamond tattoo. Aunt Mall Cop shows up, forces B to take us home, and May once again sticks her foot in her mouth. We talk to Dad for a bit, then go to bed. The next day, we wake up again at the crack of afternoon and see that May's computer is fried from too many sketchy adult websites. So we gotta hunt down Angus to see if he can help. Once we get the USB from Angus, we can start one of the 2 biggest hurdles in this entire game. Motherfucking Demon Tower. This roguelike game is a huge pain in the ass to play, as the game is very unresponsive, where the player will get hung up on random geometry, stop swinging the sword, and take damage from off-screen enemies. This is coupled by the fact that after every floor, our character loses 1 hit point and gains a dash instead. So every floor gets progressively harder with more and tougher enemies. The difficulty of this game comes from the shit controls, and that you can only swing the weapon once, maybe twice consecutively. Otherwise, this stupid cat gets tired. You also need to write down the squares that the parrot shows you on every other level in order to get the true ending. Not every level is scaled properly either. Some of the harder bosses are fought earlier, And the final boss is surprisingly easy. He's just a pain because you can't even get hit once. And you have to make sure to seal the cat before fighting the final boss. Once he's down, you'll get a double whammy of trophies. This took much longer than it should have to complete, and I hope the people who programmed this are no longer gainfully employed. Once that ordeal is done, we can finally move on and go to bed. On to day 3, the worst day of the game. We can't do much. Just ask B to drive the foursome to a party. We then spend an agonizingly long time in front of the mirror, with May's mental illness on full display. And then the party is somehow even worse. We run into Cole, who's just about the only well-adjusted character. May gets shit-faced, and as a mandatory part of the scene, starts to go crazy and threaten people, pukes, and then we have to get taken home. During the car ride, B reveals that May had forgotten that B's mom died years ago, and B is very resentful towards May, because May is just an unlikable character. We then have the first of several dream sequences. These sequences, with one single exception, only serve to add to the game's runtime. There's nothing important to them, so I will skip them, save for the important one later. It doesn't help that they're also super heckin' boring. Day 4, and we got more crap to do. Now we also need to visit our mom at the church in town, since the way there is no longer blocked. We can also hang out with an old teacher and look for these special stars, which we'll need to do several times. We can then explore and find some rats, which we will raise into an army by shoplifting pretzels. Damn, May really couldn't be more of a societal dreg if she tried. Then we meet the only other good character in this game, Germ. Germ is a bird who is weird but chill. He's also got a surprisingly good head on his shoulders. It will be important to talk to him too. On to band practice once again. I can't tell if the songs are any good or not, since I have to focus too much on nailing the rhythm. Now we need to hang out with Greg, and since this hangout section is this hangout section is why there are 2 incomplete playthroughs for collectibles. See, this hangout has us break into the abandoned food donkey to steal one of the 3 animatronics, and since we can only get one on each playthrough, 2 partial playthroughs are necessary to get to this point to get the sketches. This is followed by a super annoying minigame of helping Greg carry the stuff out. At least when you fail, it's funny to see Greg fall down the stairs. The next day, we need to hang out with Greg again, this time to beat up an abandoned vehicle and take its battery. May gets electrocuted and sees her guardian angel, Sharkle, who looks hilarious. We then hook the battery to the animatronic, get electrocuted again, and have a funny scene where Angus walks in on us, baffled and confused. The next day, we can hang out with Lori and smush some action figures on the town's railroad. And then we can hang out with Germ and get a bit philosophical. Then we hang out with Greg again and do something really dumb. We have a knife fight and make sure we win. Then we find this weird deer sculpture and shoot its head with a crossbow. Heading home, we have another song to play on the bass. Then it's off to bed. The next day, Dad has finally moved the boxes so we can get a secret tooth from a safe in the basement. This will be important later. We then head past to the church and meet the Goth trio, answering their questions, getting a prophecy, and keeping an eye out for pentagrams. Then it's time for the Halloween festival, Harfest. I took a detour to play a water balloon minigame, got roped into playing a witch in a play, and witnessed some strange figure kidnap a random dude, then seemingly walk through a fence into the great beyond. The next day, at band practice, we get the hardest song in the whole game. This fucking song, is fucking hell to get through due to the super weird beats, input delay, and other bullcrap. This song took me like 4 hours to get right, to get the Maestro trophy and its sketch. There's like one more song to do at May's house, but it's nowhere near as hard as this. So then we make B take us to the library so we can research Ghost. There's some funny articles here, and we can even learn about the significance of the tooth, where it's a symbol of the townsfolk to stand against corrupt business owners. We learn about the ghostly sightings in town and have 3 places to check out. However, in every playthrough, you can only ever visit 2 of them, which is fucking dumb. On the way out of the library, we can also stay to listen to Selmer's poetry group, which was actually impressive. Then we can get to the last bass song, Tick Tock, which isn't too bad. Nothing compared to fucking Pumpkinhead guy. The next day, we need to visit Mom at church and go on a mini adventure to a field, letting us connect a bit more with Mom. We then have a funny quest in the town's flooded subway system with a strange man and his garbage boat. Then we can hang out with Germ to go jump off a bridge and meet his pet, Rabies the possum. Then we can smash some light bulbs with Greg, and then head with him to visit the Historical Society, where, thanks to Greg's lockpicking skills, we can break in. After an owl attacks us. So we go through the maze of elevators in this place, all while being stalked by something that is following us. We find a hidden portrait in the attic, showing a depiction of people making sacrifices to a black goat. We then have to bust out of the window and escape down the fire escape. Crimes? Crimes. And then we end up meeting what May thinks is God in a dream. Today, we can finally go to the right of our house and visit Rabies, who gives us a trophy. Then we get the final hangout with Greg. Angus tags along, and it's kind of a shit show. May trashes the bathroom. Our Order of Doom nuts is all Satan-y, and Angus thinks May is a bad influence on Greg, which she totally is. Completing this hangout nets us the Let's Be Legends trophy. The following day, we can see the fruits of our labor with the musicians playing together, and then May has to go and ruin it. We can then go hang out with Germ, where he invites us over, shows us his house and family. May gets chewed out by the crazy grandma, and hey, there's even a trampoline. And to end the day, we go out to Possum Jump with Angus, look at some constellations, which takes forever and is kinda dumb. But hey, some weirdo starts staring at us from the shadows, doesn't respond to anything we say, so we gotta cheese it. We can then proceed to the end game, a pretty straightforward set of events. Our group goes out to the woods, finds who they think is the ghost, and discover a crazy murder cult getting ready to sacrifice a member for the blunder of leaving an arm in town. They hear us spying on them and chase us through the woods, where May gets shot at and falls into a coma. We get some trippy scenes and see that the group is being stalked by the weirdos in the mining outfits. May wakes up, sneaks out, and meets up with her friends. She then confesses and explains her mental disorder, a supreme disassociation with reality, where she starts to see everything and herself as shapes, and she snapped during a softball game, which caused her to beat a kid nearly to death. Why in the world would we be rooting for this bitch? The fuck is wrong with this game's writers? Somehow, May is just as bad as Daniel from Life is Strange 2. Like Jesus. So then May has the bright idea to sneak out and go confront the bastards at the mine. And just before she gets shot, Greg shoots a bolt into the assailant's arm. We chase the guy into the mine, ride down, and confront him. Only, he's not alone. The whole gang is here. The gang of miners confess to feeding an eldritch abomination at the bottom of a pit in order to bring about prosperity to the town. The lack of sacrifices caused the flood, and this is supposed to explain why the town is trapped in an ever-worsening stagnation. The pit has been calling to May to convince her to perform more sacrifices. The cult offers us a chance to join, and since we have no clue who any of them are, they let us go. But the guy Greg shot tries to get May, and we end up collapsing the mine shaft, presumably trapping everyone inside. We try to find a way out, fall into a puddle, and commune with the black goat, and then manage to escape, finding out that we ended up in a well by Germ's house, who then proceeds to fill the well with dynamite. We then get a short epilogue where we can't really tell if anyone in the town is missing and can get some closure with some people. We give Dad the tooth we found for a trophy. We find the last hidden constellation for another one. And then we talk with Greg to roll the credits. Now onto the screw-up playthrough. For this playthrough, there's a few things to keep in mind. First, at every band practice, don't play a single note to get the failure sketches for the songs. We can skip all the side content and just hang out with B. Also, at the diner, we need to eat Greg's crusts. The hangouts with B are kinda bad. First, we get to tag along for a job and catch some fireflies. Then we go to a mall and shoplift and harass patrons by squirting them with a fish fountain. We then go shopping with B for a dinner with her dad and find out about employees of the business mistreating B and how B deeply resents May for having dropped out of college when B would have killed to be able to go. Then we go with B to a college party and see the goat from the bonfire party. Apparently, this goat, named Jackie, is trans, which explains its entitlement and narcissism. Also, the game's creators have always intended for Jackie to be trans, but they couldn't fit it in anywhere. So in the bonus edition, B has a line thrown in to show this. It's also clear that if Jackie were a person, it'd be a member of Antifa, which has now been designated as a terrorist group. Then, we can also go to the graveyard with B to find out about the ghost from there, and also laugh at May confessing how awkward she is to the goth kids, which did get a laugh out of me. After this quicker playthrough, it's time to do the quickies of helping Greg snag the other two animatronics, and then we're finally done. This game is brought down by a poor story, lackluster gameplay, secrets and exploration that doesn't pan out, and characters that are just generally unlikable. The game is so predictable and boring that there's not even a point of making a spoiler tag for it. B's storyline is clearly weaker than Greg's. Apparently, there was some stuff added into the game via updates. For a while, I was confused as to why so many reviewers had sung this game as high praises. Then I realized it's because the game is so easy a toddler could beat it, and of course, it has the message spread throughout the whole game, with more of it added into the advanced edition. The game, particularly during B's storyline, pushes the message and advocates for hardcore leftist ideology, including the promotion and acceptance of trans people, being queer as the game itself puts it, and even infected the best character of the game, Greg. But the only likable characters are Greg and Germ. Angus could be better, but we hardly spend any time with him. For majority of the game, he's just Greg's boyfriend. For a narrative-driven game, Road 96 did a much better job. Hell, the Plucky Squire had a better and more interesting story than this game, and that was clearly written for little children. I guess that's what happens when you focus more on the message rather than properly integrating it into the story and characters. I feel like the people who like this game are the same people who'd say The Catcher in the Rye is a masterpiece. Newsflash, dickshits! The Catcher in the Rye sucks! It reads like a middle schooler's edgy, self-insert fan fiction and should be treated as such, much like this game, and not lauded as if it was some hidden masterpiece of the human psyche. They're just poor stories with a shit message from start to finish. Something was always wrong with Possum Springs, so why didn't we see more of it? Why did we have to basically forget about the arm and spend days just hanging out? Would it have killed them to sprinkle in a bit more mystery? Oh, that's right. They had to include all of the collectibles, make their in-game roguelite feel awful to play, add in a rhythm minigame that goes from being okay and easy to insane with no in-between, and also to not have any voiceover. So much of this game feels like it was done via half measures. And I love RPGs and don't mind reading, but this game feels extremely lifeless as a result. Most characters that aren't May are very static, so the emotion from their dialogue isn't conveyed as well, with the exception of Greg, who is very animated. Like, look at the old skits and the Tales of franchise, where most of the skits from the first few games weren't even voiced, but the scenes were still animated, and we could still see how the characters act, react, and interact. And look at how much more they added to the game. Hell, that's why they're a staple of that series. I'd have even taken animal noises. Not necessarily something like Banjo-Kazooie, but like, it would have been hilarious if every time an animal spoke, if there was an accompanying sound effect, or even funnier, a human making the noises.
What does the fox say?
And the town and where we can actually explore is so small and limited, it can almost be boiled down to like 3 screens every day that actually have things to interact with. Most of what I can remember about this game just frustrates me. And it almost ironically has one of the hardest and most frustrating platinums to obtain, along with a main character that rivals Daniel from Life is Strange 2 in being mostly irredeemable, though she's still not quite as bad as Chloe from the first Life is Strange. The platinum is a 6 out of 10 due to the bullshit of needing to get a pretty good score on all of the rhythm games, which is highly missable. Get all of the artworks, which is a huge chore and necessitates 2 full playthroughs and 2 partial ones, and of course, the ultimate bullshit of that shitty roguelite that has 2 trophies attached and has unique sketches to collect. As for the patented Dan the Ranking Man rating, the game gets an 18 out of 100. The game, for the most part, works, but is at odds with itself and its presentation. Has a small cast of characters where only 2 are likable in any way, and just isn't very fun or engaging. I kept playing more out of an obligation rather than wanting to see what else the story had to offer, especially when Greg's story ended halfway through. This game barely qualifies as a game and can safely be skipped. Go play something else. And if you go for the platinum in this game, please use a guide and be aware of the stupid roguelite and the retarded rhythm games. So until next time, like and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next game, Fist. And remember, only losers like B more than Greg. And super losers think Jackie is a good or worthwhile character.